This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse, New York, who bring you a podcast about the farm, the facts, and the fascination behind the New York Mets. But recently, we've been expanding. We've heard your feedback. So this is going to be a free agency episode that covers some of the things that have happened so far, the happenings from multiple teams. Just to get ahead of it, my voice is a little down for the count, so Ashley's going to help me. She's going to yap a little more. Ashley, how are you feeling? It's free agency season.
Oh, it's free agency season, folks. Welcome back. We are back. Dodgers fans, have you recovered from the hangover from the World Series? Last time we talked to you, we were popping champagne. Congratulating you on that. What a parade you guys had over there. You know, it feels like you really deserve that. Seems like everybody had a nice little World Series parade, nice little wrap up to that World Series win. So hope that all went well for you over there in LA. But free agency season is upon us. The 5 days after the World Series deadline officially expired on Monday at 5 o'clock. We are recording this on Tuesday, probably putting it out on Tuesday night. So what does that mean? It means that players can officially sign with other teams. The deadline for teams and players to decide on those options and for teams to extend qualifying offers is here. So we have to start with the Mets, but we will get into some Dodgers and some Yankees and some other things later on in the episode, so stay for that. But the Mets did some things. Only 13 players in baseball received qualifying offers. That's not a lot. And the New York Mets had 3 of them.
They sure did. Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, and Pete Alonso. $21.05 million is the offer. Players have until November 19th to accept. What do you think as far as those 3 players and what you predict is going to happen?
Yeah, so Pete, to my knowledge, already declined the offer, I believe. That's not surprising, or I think he did, or he is going to. Sean Manaea already declined his $13.5 million player option, so I would feel pretty confident that he's probably going to decline the qualifying offer. I really think Manaea, with this thin starting pitching market, is going to be looking for like 20 or more million a year. I really think Sean Manaea is about to get paid.
And why wouldn't you?
And why wouldn't you, especially in a year where starting pitchers are in demand. Luis Severino, I think maybe could accept. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I know that David Stearns went on the record yesterday talking about Severino to SNY. He said he had a great year and we want him back. So I was happy to see that in our first free agency episode. We did kind of previewing things. I said I'd really like both Manaea and Severino back. I hope that can happen. We will see. So what is notable about the Mets extending these qualifying offers is that if any of these 3 go elsewhere, the Mets are now eligible for draft pick compensation. So it's always kind of the smart thing to do, even when you know, right, the Mets know Pete Alonso's not accepting it, the Yankees know Juan SOTO's not accepting it. But if you want a guy back and you're going to fight for him, there's really no negative to extending the qualifying.
And one thing we know kind of about this management and this staff is that they are smart, not only in the things that they do, I think also in the things that they say and the way they approach things even with the media. Also, just worth saying it once, you just have to say it. Imagine turning down $21 million. Like, it's just, can we just take one beat on it?
It's funny you should bring this up because as I was going through this yesterday, and like, I know this is the most obvious statement of all time, so don't flame me, but I was like, these guys are like set up forever. Like, this is generational wealth that these players are raking in. It's crazy.
And I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying
do,
it's just
like,
a funny, it's conceptually
Lord in
funny
heaven, Jesus.
to think about being like, I'm out on that, but let me see what else you got that's better.
Yeah.
But hey, I get it. Go and get your money. Go and get your bag. Yeah, so I actually do agree. And I think end of the day, especially when you're looking at the pitchers, what you need to think about and just know is that the Mets need arms. They need arms from somewhere.
Yeah.
They need starting pitchers. Honestly, I'd love to see some of the guys from last year back. I would love to see Manaea back. I would love to see Severino back. I'd also like to see the new people who they potentially could go out and get to, though.
I have to say something.
Okay, it's okay.
I saw it on Twitter yesterday, or it was maybe an Instagram story of Sean Manaea holding Francisco Lindor's daughter and saying that she's going to be the flower girl in his wedding. Listen, Mets, if you break up the family of Sean Manaea and Lindor's daughter being in Sean Manaea's flower girl at his wedding, I'm going to be mad at you. I'm going to be mad at you. There's other reasons why I'm going to be mad at you. But, yeah, on the pitchers, I really hope Manaea comes back more than Severino. We've touched on that. We'll see what happens. I think the Mets are really going to try to get that done, to be honest with you. David Stearns was asked yesterday in said media availability. He was asked if he thinks the Mets need a, quote, ace. His answer was, having a horse at the front of your rotation always helps. I think Sean Manaea served that this year. There were points where Sevy did that for us. So I think that David Stearns really views Sean Manaea, despite the age, despite the kind of up and down career before this, I think he really thinks he's figured something out. He's put it together with the sale delivery, and he wants him on his team for the next year or two or the foreseeable future.
I also think it's interesting because there are always a few different routes that organizations can go with this. Perhaps they're going to really bolster their bullpen and they're going to have more of those kinds of arms. You never know what they're going to do, but I do like how it seems like for the most part, anyone who the fans would be interested in keeping around, they're open to that too.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening. But to your point, I mean, you guys, some of these players, okay, they're going on wine tastings. There are friendships here. There are relationships.
Important bonds.
Okay.
Important weddings and important flower girls.
Okay, let's keep it going. The Mets also, take a beat on it, declined Phil Maton's $7.75 million option. I think people knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was unsurprising. That was a steep price for old friend Phil. That was a high ticket item. But
I love when you call him old friend.
Old friend Phil.
I feel like you only say old friend with people who you sort of feel could be an enemy.
That's the only people I call old friends because it's very sarcastic in nature. David Stearns said, quote, I talked to Phil. Imagine being named Phil. I've said that before, but like, wow. Expressed interest in keeping in touch. I think he feels the same way, and said that declining the option had to do with keeping options open. Read between the tea leaves. Yeah, David Stearns declining that option actually had to do with the fact that old friend Phil was overpriced as hell. But sure, if that's what you want to say. Maybe we'll see him
Smart
back.
to say it, though. He doesn't say Phil was too expensive. He says, I talked to Phil, expressed interest in keeping in touch. Like that sounds like you're not asking him on another date again.
No, okay, so that brings me to, we need to go back to Alonso for a second, because there was an Alonso quote from Stearns yesterday that kind of raised a few alarm bells in my head. I said, ding, ding. Woo. Don't know about that. On Pete Alonso, Stearns said, we have some infield depth. Pete has been a part of this team for a long time, and certainly we're going to keep in touch with him. We're going to keep in touch with him sounds like what the recruiter tells you when you're not getting the job. Like, we're going to keep in touch with you, liked you a lot. You're never getting that job. You're actually not hearing back for a second interview.
Would love to see where you're headed.
We'll keep in touch.
Oh, I hate that.
No one's keeping in touch when you say we'll keep in touch.
I hate that.
I don't know, man. I don't know what'll happen with Alonso. And Stearns said they're also going to see how the market plays out in terms of first and third base. We said it. We'll say it again. They're not going to overpay for Pete Alonso. And a team might walk along that will overpay for Pete Alonso. I think Alonso wants to be in New York. I think he wants to be a Met. I think both sides are going to do everything they can to keep that happen, going to make that happen. But at the end of the day, cold hard cash can talk.
Here's where I have to bring up one of my sleep paralysis demons.
Sure.
What happens if they say no to Pete Alonso and he goes to the Yankees?
Okay. I would be upset, but what happens if then Juan Soto comes to the Mets? We do a little swap, a little crosstown, a little wife swap situation.
Ashley, you're going to get canceled.
Sorry.
No, honestly, though, that's an interesting point.
It would make me ill to see Pete Alonso in a Yankee uniform. But, like, would my disease be cured a little faster if Juan Soto was in a Mets uniform? Yes. And honestly, I'm going to come out and say it. Pete Alonso is kind of exactly the type of player that the New York Yankees like. You know what I mean? Power hitting, doesn't really bring a lot to the table defensively. Like, he screams Yankee. Anyway, I hope that doesn't happen. Don't get me twisted on that. It would take me some time to get over that. But we'll see what happens with Alonso. The Mets aren't going to overpay him. Maybe somebody will.
That's true. That's 100% true. And that's, I think, the scary thing with the whole Alonso situation is if he's not here, there really are plenty of teams who would benefit from a Pete Alonso. He's going somewhere and he's getting paid.
Yeah.
Anyway, continuing on with this train, David Stearns says to expect Brandon Nimmo to remain as the Mets left fielder and will explore center field options via free agency and trade while having a lot of confidence in Tyrone Taylor. That's great. We also have a lot of confidence in Tyrone Taylor.
Yeah, I like Tyrone. We touched on it. We'll see what they do with Jesse Winker and Harrison Bader in free agency. Also, I brought this up many a time. I'll bring it up again. Luis Angel Acuna played a decent amount of center field here in Syracuse. So with all of the infield kind of moving pieces they have, you got to get Jeff McNeil in there. You got to get, obviously, Francisco Lindor. Des Iglesias come back. Maybe center field is a spot where Acuna can see some time, at least off the bench. Do I expect him to be their starting center fielder? No, but maybe that's a spot where he gets some time.
Joey Lucchesi and DJ Stewart have said goodbye to the New York Mets, and the New York Mets have said goodbye to them.
Bye-bye now, DJ Stewart. Godspeed.
Wait, keep in touch.
Keep in touch, but nobody's calling you ever again. Yeah, God bless America. The time in DJ Stewart experiment is over. DJ, not a knock on you or your friends or your family, but that long national nightmare just needed to end.
Yeah, she put in her notes, by the way, God bless the USA. Just had to say that.
Bye-bye, DJ now. So long.
Fitting on election day.
Godspeed.
Stearns also with this quote, which again, it's like all of his quotes, you sort of feel like you need to read between the lines a little bit, and I don't hate that.
There's tea leaves and I'm reading them.
Yeah, there sure are. He said, we understand we have financial flexibility. We also understand that flexibility is not limitless. We have to be cognizant of all of the bounds. Steve Cohen is going to support what we think are wise baseball initiatives. I also love that so much. It's like Rich Stevie is going to support us, but we are going to figure out who's
Rich Uncle Stevie. We have the money. Don't get us wrong, okay? But we're only going to put it where we want to. Can you imagine what a feeling that must be being David Stearns? It isn't your money. You just get to go out on a shopping spree for the entirety of the baseball universe, as he put it, and it isn't your money. Hey, Stevie, I need $600 million for Juan Soto. Okay,
got down a rabbit hole with this last night looking this up because I was trying to explain to someone how rich he really is. He is in the top 100 richest men or richest people, I actually believe, in the world, according to Forbes. And yesterday he was ranked 96, richest in the world. He has over, I believe, 22. It's either 21 or 22 billion dollars. That's how much money he has.
Crazy. That's so crazy.
So yeah, it's limitless.
Juan Soto's contract, and forget about the money that he does make off the Mets or any of that. Like Juan Soto's $500 million is literally Stevie's pocket change.
It's like, that is disgusting when you really think about
Makes
it.
me kinda
Like
sick.
that's why they say it's limitless. This has nothing to do with, like, yes, he's the Mets owner. That doesn't matter at all. Y'all, it's the hedge funds. Like, let's not get it twisted.
Oh, it's the stuff in the background. Stevie's got a lot of balls in the air, to put it mildly. Anyways, and he also said that the entire Mets coaching staff will return, and Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor are Silver Slugger finalists. So that's a delight. I would like to say that I believe Francisco Lindor got absolutely robbed, highway robbery on the Gold Glove. He actually wasn't even a top 3 finalist. That was ridiculous to me. But he's a Silver Slugger finalist, so Godspeed.
Also, Mark Vientos. Felt like a little robbery there.
Yeah,
I thought
could
he
see
could have
that.
been in the mix, and
Marky
I saw some
Mark.
people saying that. Especially when you looked at some of the other stats of the other people in his position who did get it.
Sure.
I really wasn't overwhelmed by his competition. Just gonna say it.
Sure.
So that's on the Mets for now. And it makes me feel excited because I feel like for the next few weeks we're gonna come back and we're gonna have more and more and more to say.
Yeah,
It's
no,
exciting.
especially on Severino Manaea. That stuff I feel like is going to pop in the next few weeks.
I need to know where Soto is gonna go. Like, I need to know so badly, it's not even funny.
Well, let's get into it. He got the qualifying offer, and he said kind of after the World Series, I said it in our World Series episode, that if you were a Yankees fan and I just lost the World Series and then old friend Juan gets up and stands next to his locker and says that he'll go to any team that wants him, like, man, if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm already sick, and then that Juan Soto quote just made me throw up. Like, that is tough. Tough.
Yeah, to be a Yankees fan and have that the fifth inning and Juan Soto maybe leaving combo, it's going to be a really, really tough offseason for Yankees fans.
Right.
I could not stop watching, and not necessarily out of joy, but truly because I just needed to hear what they were saying. Like, you and I were both like this. There are some really good Mets podcasts that go around. This one guy named John Jastrzemski who works with SNY, and listening to the way he does it, because there's all these
Yankees podcast.
Yankees fans on.
Yeah.
It's called New York, New York. If you want to check it out, it's an interesting one. It is like the night after the World Series was one of the best podcasts I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, I was leaving work when we were doing this episode, and you put me onto it, and I turned on JJ's show, New York Sports Talk Radio, after the Yankees lost. Everybody said I was evil last week for taking so much joy in it. Like, you can say I'm evil. That was the most fantastic experience at 2 a.m. Eastern time to turn on that New York, New York show and hear the Yankee fan meltdowns. My God, was it just, you can't even replicate it. Like, it literally sounded sounded like an SNL skit comedy, and it was real life of these Yankees fans just having absolute mental breakdowns. Like JJ, I love JJ and I respect him as a journalist. I think he's great. He's like taking these callers. He was like Louise, and like Louise with the phones wasn't working. He was just like, "There's no Louise. There's no Louise." Like, they were just so defeated.
So you guys understand the way that he formats this podcast. It's actually on Twitter. It's called Twitter Spaces. If anyone's familiar,
it's like Twitter Live, basically.
It's essentially a Twitter Live, and like hundreds of people will call in. So it's essentially like a therapy session he hosts for hundreds of people, and he's the therapist, but he's also sick. So that's why. And sometimes people won't be there. So he's like, "Louise," and even Louise is gone. So we're just gonna end the show like that. Is actually happening.
At like 2:30 in the morning. So we're just
Louise,
done.
Louise, are you here or not? But anyway, for the people who do come in, just to wrap it up, it'll be like, and they all have the classic Long Island accent, which of course we know, and I'm originally from Long Island. Hey, JJ, listen. I'm driving back home. I'm freaking sick right now.
I'm disgusted.
I'm just disgusted. It's one of the worst innings I've ever seen, postseason or regular season, in my entire freaking life.
No, and then they get into like, that's not even, forget the game. They get into like their existential crisis about the Yankees' future for the next 15 years. It's so good.
I don't know why we keep on coming back,
so
JJ.
good.
I don't know why we keep doing this to ourselves
And the
year
Jets
after year.
suck too.
And then the Jets. Forget about it. Anyway, sorry, we'll move on. But the point is, a lot of exciting things coming that way. On the Yankees beat, right-hander GERRIT COLE is remaining with the New York Yankees on the 4-year, $144 million deal that he had opted out of. And there was some kind of funny conversations on Twitter about that.
GERRIT COLE literally opted out of it. He said, "I'll test the market. I'll test the waters." He got thrown into the waters, and literally one day later or two, he was like, "Never mind. I actually don't want to be in those waters. Forget it. I'm going to just come back." Allegedly, the thing between him and the Yankees there was that the Yankees didn't want to give him a 5th year, and he wanted a 5th year. Old friend Garrett settled for 4 years, $144 million. That was the original. Settled for $144 million. That was the original deal that he had opted out of originally. Discussions on a potential contract extension will continue, and essentially it is the same as if Cole never opted out. That was funny to me. We've discussed how the starting pitcher market is not great. Like, Garrett literally saw the starting pitcher market, said, "I don't want to shop here. Thanks."
Yep. No, like, it turns out the grass isn't always greener.
I'm good.
He's like, "I'm going to go back home." Fair enough. We respect it. Let's talk about the Dodgers. Let's talk about the Dodgers. Old friends, but we mean that in actual friends. And thanks for showing out on the last episode, by the way. Another all-time high, 40,000 views, and we appreciate it. We weren't sure if you guys would be out, hungover, drunk, celebrating because of the World Series, so thanks for tuning in when you did. Teoscar Hernandez was the lone Dodgers player to get extended a qualifying offer, making Walker Buehler a free agent. That's insane.
Yeah. If you're a Dodgers fan, give us a little pulse on that. How do you feel about maybe not retaining Walker Buehler? I know Jack Flaherty has some stuff going on with free agency talks as well, so maybe you lose both of those guys. I think in a thin starting pitching market, both Flaherty and Buehler are going to be pretty highly sought after. We saw Buehler have some kind of ups and downs this postseason, but it'll be interesting for sure. And Teoscar Hernandez extended that qualifying offer. I'm sure if you're a Dodgers fan, you want him to take it. Teoscar, we had some fans in our comments saying, like, if the Juan SOTO sweepstakes comes down to Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, we actually really want Teoscar back, and that's our biggest priority. So if you're choosing that over Juan SOTO, I mean, you must know something, and I trust you because you're a Dodgers fan. So let us know. I know that they're hoping that Teoscar stays over there in LA, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I was a little surprised, and I can't say I've been an avid baseball fan my whole life, but the numbers, like, I'm a journalist, the numbers don't really stick with me. When I was going through this to do this podcast and I realized the qualifying offers, to go back to the holy money aspect of this, the qualifying offers being $21 million, like, that's a high average annual pay for these guys. There's plenty of guys in baseball that don't make $21 million a year. I know a lot of these guys are looking for their bigger contracts, they're looking for a more long-term situation, but if you are in a spot where it's like 1 year, maybe I want to say a Luis Severino spot, for instance, $21 million, pretty good.
Yeah, all that to say, that's a salary that has risen with inflation.
Sure, right. Ours has not.
Sure.
Anyway,
let us know what you think about Walker Buehler. Seriously curious what Dodgers fans think about that. I was sort of surprised. I thought, like, why not just extend it? But Just to kind of round it all out, just a few more that we had written down that we thought were interesting. Atlanta Braves have declined their $8 million club option on catcher Travis Darno. Sources, that's according to ESPN. He is now a free agent. Another interesting one.
That one surprised me. I mean, if you're the Braves, right? Okay, $8 million. That's cheapish, I guess, in an average, maybe not for a catcher, but cheapish, certainly less than 21 million.
Certainly less.
He had a decent year. I mean, he hit 238. He's never really hit for average. 48 RBI, 15 home runs. For a catcher, I don't really understand letting him walk for nothing. If you weren't gonna exercise that club option, why wouldn't you have traded him? Or I know they were in the playoff push, so it's like you're not going to trade your starting catcher, I guess. But why wouldn't you have tried to get something for him? Why wouldn't you? That just was a little strange to me. And he did have a good year, and that wasn't really that high of a price point. So not really sure what's going on over there with the Braves. That was a little shocking. Do I think we'll see a Mets reunion? No, because of Francisco Alvarez. But maybe would Travis d'Arnaud be willing to come back in a backup catcher spot? I don't know. He is a guy who spent a lot of years in New York. We'll see. Travis d'Arnaud, and then what was the other one we had?
On the last page.
Michael Wacha and the Royals agreed 3 years, $51 million, includes a club option and can max out at 4 years, $72 million. The Royals, I think, were smart to do that. That was a smart decision on the Royals' part, kind of keeping that rotation together of Wacha, old friend Seth Lugo from the Mets. It's always smart to keep a starting rotation together, I think, when you have some guys that have found success together. So Wacha was a guy we were kind of watching on the starting pitching market as well, and now he is off the table and remains in Kansas City. So we will see what happens. We will see what continues to go on here in the free agency market. It's only going to heat up as we get towards that November 19th deadline for the qualifying offers, and then, of course, baseball winter meetings and all that lovely stuff. I have a question for you. Pete Alonso, what is your prediction on when that's going to pop? Do you think it's going to be sooner rather than later, or do you think Pete's going to take his sweet time? Because I think Pete's going to take his sweet time.
And it's funny because in my mind I was thinking sooner rather than later. Could be wrong about that, but I don't know. I think I guess it depends on when other offers would come through and who else is interested in him.
Closer to that, probably December winter meetings.
Yeah, sure. I could see that. But honestly, I think he's the kind of guy who has had so much time to think about this and to know what was coming and to kind of understand. Obviously now, okay, he sees what's happening in the offseason, but all year long it was a question of, is this going to be his last, time in a Mets jersey and all that stuff? So I think because of that and because he's had time to think about it, I really think he probably knows what he wants to do. And he's waiting to see what kind of offers come in. But I guess what I'll say is I don't think that money alone is the most important thing to him. I think there's other things that matter to him besides just that.
I agree with that part of it. I honestly don't agree. For some reason, maybe I'm naive. I feel like Pete hasn't thought about this once. Him and the playoff run, and he kept saying he wasn't thinking about it. And then him and Haley are out here in Paris after the season ends. I feel like Pete is just in that state of, that sweet phase of denial where there's a big thing lurking over here and you just haven't really looked at it yet.
You think he's a procrastinator?
I think he's a procrastinator. But Scott Boras, his agent, I know Scott's been thinking about it. So somebody's been thinking about it.
Scott Boras, man.
We'll see what happens.
We can have a whole episode on that.
I would love to have an episode to dive into Scott Boras.
I honestly think we
Another
should.
Man who is underrated, extremely wealthy.
I know.
Anyways, we wanted to wrap up on something here. You want to?
Yes. The Mets have donated one of their OMG signs to the National Baseball Hall of Fame, which is really, I think, it signifies the end of an era. And it is so special.
Oh, but I don't want the era to end.
But it's so cool.
Sad.
I know, but think about it this way. It also means that will be a part of history forever.
But do you think, say next year's team is quite similar to this year's with Sevy, Manaea, Alonso's back, say it's a lot of the same characters, does OMG live on? I feel like it might, but it depends on who's here.
And should it? I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Would that devalue how special it was this season?
You're right.
But they need something. Like I need a little treat, a little something special.
I want to see OMG back. Maybe that's just me. Yeah, they're displaying the sign in Cooperstown, not that far from here, displayed in the Your Team Today exhibit that tells the story of the team over the last 10 years. So like the modern version of each team. And the original sign will be on display in the Mets Hall of Fame at Citi Field. When I saw that today, I was like, that just makes me, that guy, J Mac Customs, he's all over Mets Twitter, the guy who originally made the signs and worked with the team to kind of blow that up into what it became. I was like, that is so cool. Like imagine you started this year as just like, I think he did an interview saying his woodworking, he might thought he was at the end of the road with that before this year, and then all this blows up and now you're in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like, wow.
I thought about that too. It's funny you say that. He's like the first person I thought of.
Yeah.
I'm like, imagine coming up with that idea, how crazy it must feel to even have the Mets notice you. Now you're enshrined in history.
Right.
So sick.
Underrated topic. We forgot to mention that OMG coming back or not is kind of Jose Iglesias dependent, I would say, with the song and whatnot. I know the sign took on a life of its own, but like this song was rather pertinent. So
I agree. It might feel like a little bit of a betrayal to do it without him.
Right. If Jose Iglesias is on the Kansas City Royals, I don't really know if you can be doing OMG anymore.
Ew. No one else can do OMG though besides the Mets. That would be disgusting.
I'll have a fit. The scream that I was scrumped.
Always find a way to include it, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us. We will keep you up to date. I know there are going to be more moves soon, so hopefully we have more to talk about by next week. You can plan on seeing us again back here either next Tuesday night or Wednesday, but if something crazy happens before then, you never know.
Bye.
Maybe you'll see us sooner. Bye until next time.